was a bankrupt architect, days from losing his home, about to take away his son's only escape, an old, cracked tablet. But what he saw on that screen didn't just stop him. It was the one thing that could save them all. If you believe that hope can be found in the most unexpected places and that a child's dream can be more powerful than a corporate giant, subscribe to our channel and let us know in the comments. What is the most incredible hidden talent you've ever discovered in someone close to you? The silence in Mark's house was the sound of drowning. It was a thick, suffocating quiet, broken only by the rustle of cardboard boxes and the mournful creak of floorboards that no longer felt like his own. The grand, open-plan living room, once a testament to his success as a high-end architect, was now a graveyard of his former life. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating not the sleek, modern furniture he had designed, but stacks of boxes labeled kitchen, books, memories. On the polished marble island in the center of the room lay a single, stark white envelope. The final eviction notice. It was a death certificate for the life he had built. Mark stared at it, a man of 45 who felt 1,000 years old. His architectural firm, his life's work, had been stolen from him. Betrayed by his business partner Richard, a man he had once called his brother. Richard had systematically siphoned clients and plagiarized designs, leaving Mark with a mountain of debt and a hollowed-out soul. The system, with its cold, unforgiving legalities, had sided with the man who had the better lawyers. Mark was left with nothing but the shame of his failure. His gaze drifted to the corner of the room. There, curled up on a beanbag chair amidst the chaos, was his 12-year-old son, Leo. And in Leo's hands was the source of Mark's deepest, most painful frustration, an old, beat-up tablet. Its screen was a spiderweb of cracks, its case chipped and worn. Leo was oblivious, his thumbs moving furiously across the screen, his face illuminated by the pale digital glow. He was playing a game, Mark assumed, escaping into some fantasy world while their real one crumbled around them. A hot, bitter wave of anger washed over Mark. It was an unfair anger and he knew it, but the helplessness was a poison. He had failed to protect his family, and his son's apparent indifference felt like a personal indictment. He walked over, his shadow falling over the boy. "Leo," he said, his voice rougher than he intended. "We need to pack. You can't just sit there playing games." Leo didn't look up. "It's not a game, Dad," he mumbled, his focus absolute. "It doesn't matter what it is," Mark snapped, the control he had been clinging to finally fraying. "It's over. This life is over. We have to face it." His voice cracked on the last words. He reached down, his hand closing around the tablet. His intention was to take it, to put it in a box, to sever this last infuriating link to a past they could no longer afford. He needed his son to be present in their shared misery. But as his fingers brushed the edge of the device, his eyes caught the screen. And the world stopped. It wasn't a game. There were no cartoon characters, no exploding jewels. The screen was filled with a complex, three-dimensional architectural rendering. It was a building, a structure so innovative, so breathtakingly original, that it made the air catch in Mark's throat. Its lines were fluid and organic, a series of interconnected pods that seemed to grow out of the earth like a crystalline hive. It was a design that defied gravity, that blended sustainability with a futuristic aesthetic he had only ever dreamed of. It was, without a doubt, a work of genius. Mark stared at the screen, then at his son, whose thumbs were still expertly manipulating the 3D model, rotating it, zooming in on the intricate structural details. The anger, the despair, it all evaporated, replaced by a single heart-stopping question that echoed in the silent, box-filled room. What am I looking at? What happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss how this unfolded. Let us know in the comments. Have you ever been completely wrong about a situation, only to discover a truth that left you speechless? The tablet felt heavy in Mark's hands, no longer a symbol of childish escape, but an artifact from an unknown world. "Leo, what is this?" he asked, his voice a hoarse whisper. Leo finally looked up, his eyes wide with the fear of being caught. I told you, it's not a game." He pointed a shy finger at the screen. "It's a design program. I downloaded it a few years ago. The free version..." Mark sank to his knees, bringing himself level with his son. He navigated the program's interface, his trained architect's eye taking in the layers, the structural grids, the material specifications. It was all there, a fully realized architectural concept. "You did this?" he asked, his voice trembling with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "You designed this building?" Leo nodded, pulling his knees to his chest. "I call it the Hive. It's a community living space. The pods are for families, and the central core has gardens and energy collectors. It's self-sufficient." He said it so simply as if describing a Lego creation. But Mark saw the truth. This wasn't a child's fantasy. It was a revolutionary design, a solution to urban housing crises, a paradigm shift in sustainable architecture. It was brilliant. And in that moment, a tiny, fragile seed of hope began to sprout in the barren wasteland of Mark's despair. He knew about the Phoenix Prize. It was the industry's most prestigious award for conceptual architecture, a competition designed to find the next big idea, the design that would define the future. The grand prize was $250,000 in a development contract with a major firm. It was a long shot, an impossible dream. But looking at the screen of the cracked tablet, Mark knew they had something no one else did. "Leo," he said, his voice now firm, alive with a purpose he hadn't felt in months. "The deadline for the Phoenix Prize is in 48 hours. We're going to enter this." The next 2 days were a frantic, desperate race against time. The obstacles were monumental. All of Mark's professional-grade computers and software had been seized as assets during the bankruptcy. All they had was Leo's ancient tablet, which was painfully slow and prone to crashing. The submission required high-resolution renderings, a detailed technical proposal, and structural stress test simulations, tasks that were nearly impossible on their limited technology. The house became a war room. Mark, his own architectural genius reawakened, worked with Leo to refine the design, to translate the boy's intuitive brilliance into the cold, hard language of engineering and physics. The father who had been drowning in shame was now a general, and his son was his secret weapon. They worked side by side, a blur of frantic energy. The tablet overheated constantly, the battery died, the free software crashed, deleting hours of work. Each setback was a fresh wave of despair, but they pushed through, united by a single desperate goal. The biggest hurdle was the final rendering. The tablet's processor simply couldn't handle it. Mark, in a final act of sacrifice, took the last valuable thing he owned, a vintage watch his own father had given him, and pawned it for a few $100s. It was enough to rent 2 hours on a high-powered graphics workstation at a 24-hour internet cafe downtown. They arrived at the cafe in the dead of night, two fugitives from a broken life, carrying their precious tablet like a holy relic. Surrounded by gamers and night owls, they worked, their faces illuminated by the glow of the powerful monitor. Mark watched in awe as Leo, now on a machine that could keep up with his mind, flew through the final renderings, his small hands a blur of focused energy. With less than 10 minutes to spare before the midnight deadline, they uploaded the final submission. The project was titled simply The Hive, submitted by M&L Designs. They stumbled out of the cafe into the cold, pre-dawn air, utterly exhausted, but bound by a new, unbreakable bond. Mark looked at his son not as a child who needed protecting, but as his partner, his equal. He had thought his son was escaping their reality, but the truth was Leo had been busy building them a new one. This is the climax. Everything you've been waiting for is right here. Stay to see how the hero put everyone in their place. If you believe in the unbreakable power of family and fighting against all odds, make sure you subscribe for more stories like this. The Phoenix Prize award ceremony was held in a glittering, cathedral-like hall, filled with the titans of the architectural world. Mark and Leo, in their best, slightly worn clothes, felt like imposters, two small gray sparrows in a flock of peacocks. The air hummed with quiet confidence and the clinking of champagne glasses. On the stage, bathed in a soft, golden light, sat the panel of judges. And in the center, looking smug and powerful, was Richard Sterling. Mark's stomach churned. He hadn't known Richard was a judge. The game felt rigged before it had even begun. He felt a protective arm instinctively go around Leo's shoulders. The ceremony began. The host, a famous design critic, spoke in glowing terms about the future of architecture. Then Richard stepped up to the podium to announce the finalists. He spoke with his usual slick corporate charm, his voice smooth and confident. Our first finalist, he announced, is the firm of Sterling and Associates for their project, the Apex. A polite, knowing ripple of applause went through the room. He announced two more finalists, both from massive, globally recognized firms. Mark's heart sank. It had been a foolish dream. And finally, Richard said, a slight, almost imperceptible tremor in his voice. A surprise entry that captivated the entire panel with its audacity and vision. From the previously unknown M&L Designs, the Hive. A wave of stunned silence, followed by a confused murmur, swept through the hall. Mark's heart stopped. He looked down at Leo, whose face was pale, his eyes wide as saucers. Richard, up on the stage, looked shaken. As a judge, he had seen the submission. He had recognized the core design principles, the sustainable energy loops, the modular community focus, as Mark's old revolutionary theories, ideas he had once mocked as unprofitable fantasies, before stealing their more commercial elements for his own work. But Leo's design, his intuitive, elegant execution, had elevated those ideas to a level of pure genius that Richard, for all his stolen success, could never hope to achieve. He had seen the ghost of his own betrayal, and it had been perfected by a 12-year-old boy. The final moment arrived. The host opened the golden envelope. And the winner of this year's Phoenix Prize is... He paused for dramatic effect. M&L Designs for The Hive. The hall erupted in shocked applause. Mark and Leo sat frozen, unable to process it. A stage manager had to come and gently guide them towards the stage. As they walked up the steps, the world seemed to move in slow motion. Richard stood at the podium holding the heavy golden trophy. His face was a mask of forced composure, but his eyes were filled with a chaotic mixture of rage, disbelief, and a dawning, horrifying respect. He had to present the award, the symbol of architectural genius, to the man he had bankrupted and his quiet, 12-year-old son. He held out the trophy. Mark didn't take it. He gently pushed Leo forward. Richard's hand was shaking as he lowered the heavy award into Leo's small arms. The visual was devastating. The powerful, corrupt CEO forced to bestow the industry's highest honor upon the child whose future he had nearly destroyed. His public humiliation was silent, absolute, and complete. Mark stepped up to the microphone. The room was silent, waiting for a speech of vindication, of revenge. But Mark didn't even look at Richard. He put his arm around his son. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I used to think architecture was about steel and glass and big budgets. I thought it was about winning." He looked down at Leo. "My son taught me it's about something else. It's about building a better future. It's about hope." He paused, then said the words that would echo through the industry for years. "Innovation isn't about corporate power or expensive tools. It's about a new generation seeing the world differently. This award belongs to him." He gestured to Leo. The spotlight followed, and the massive screens on either side of the stage projected the image for all to see. A small boy, dwarfed by a golden trophy, clutching an old, beat-up tablet with a spiderweb of cracks across its screen. On that screen, glowing like a beacon, was the winning design. The visual hook had come full circle. The symbol of their poverty and desperation was now the undeniable symbol of their triumph. If this story of a father's redemption and a son's hidden genius inspired you, share it with someone who needs it. And subscribe for more stories that prove true. Wealth is something money can never, ever buy.